All right. So, um, what you're asking about is the question of suppression of feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And what does the Buddha have to say about
Mm-hmm.
suppression of feelings? Well, one of the ways that we can talk about it, suppression of feelings, is that, wait a minute, you either feel something
Mm-hmm.
or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
You either feel sadness or you're not sad. You either feel angry or you're not angry.
Mm-hmm.
So, where does the idea of suppression of feelings come in? Okay.
Oh, I see.
Let's talk about it in the sense of maybe it's not suppression of feelings, that it's suppression of the behavior that we would have if we had those feelings.
I
And
see.
so it would be possible to say that someone is repressing feelings if,
Mm-hmm.
in fact, they're angry,
Mm-hmm.
but then they continue to have angry thoughts, they have angry feelings, but they
Mm-hmm.
will not allow themselves to express those
Mm-hmm.
angry feelings.
Oh, I see. So it's like they're still boiling, but like they won't say anything, for example, or they won't lash out.
Right. So
That.
it's not the feelings themselves that are pushed down and repressed. No, the feelings are there, but they do have enough self control to not act upon it.
I see.
Now, there
Because
was a very interesting. Go ahead and ask your question.
oh,
Go ahead.
oh yeah, because it's like the interesting thing is, sometimes how like when somebody has had a long day, and they come back, maybe they're on like commute or something, and they feel kind of sad or something, and they hold it in, but then at some point when they're home, or something, like when they're alone, or when somebody asks them, look, how was your day, and then they completely like break down, or they cry or something.
They let
you know,
it all out.
I see. Right, exactly. So does that imply, like, beforehand, they might be feeling little bits of sadness, but somehow, the sadness is like suppressed? Like what happens like there? Like I'm just curious, like what, like, is there like a difference, or do we just say like they kind of just feel like sad, but they don't express it, right? Like we said before. Yeah.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you're bordering on the issue of how to deal with this, but let's
Mm-hmm.
pursue it just a little bit more here.
Mm-hmm.
Let me tell you the story about what happened in the 1970s with psychotherapy. They had that same idea.
Mm-hmm.
And that in there, they talked about, well, everybody's got all of these suppressed feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they should let them out.
Mm-hmm.
And so they trigger it and bring it up.
Mm-hmm.
And that examples of that would be Fritz Perl's Empty Chair, the
Mm-hmm.
one where nobody's there.
Mm-hmm.
You know the old Neil Diamond song?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anyway, that also leads to um, the example then of taking the pillow
Mm-hmm.
and beating it. Okay,
Oh.
it's mom on the that we're thinking that it's mom that we're letting all of this stuff out, and so we beat the pillow.
Oh.
Uh, that led then to an entire industry, including what they called encounter groups. They
Uh-huh.
had batons, soft big boxing gloves, and all kinds of stuff. But what they eventually started to run into was that the guy who was beating the pillow
Uh-huh.
and letting his anger out,
Uh-huh.
when he went home, he would continue letting it out on his family.
Oh, so it was actually reinforcing the destructive habit. That's what they were training, and not actually
They
like
were
feeling.
right. They began to train and reinforce a bad habit that was actually better if they had not let it out.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow.
Okay. And that led to a fairly major change in psychotherapy to where you don't hear about encounter groups
Wow.
anymore. They don't do them. They don't do the encounter. They don't do the baton. They don't do the pillow bashing. All of
Mhm.
that kind of stuff is, they found that it was kind of counterproductive. So
Wow.
let's look at what is productive.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is that these, what they were calling suppressed emotions, weren't necessarily suppressed. They were
Mhm.
just not expressed.
Oh, okay. That makes sense now. That makes a lot more sense now. Then I see. I see.
Okay, so let's deal with the feelings that are not suppressed and they're not expressed either, because this is in fact when it's a set at the situation of the in one's practice of sitting meditation.
Mhm.
That's the hindrances that are coming up.
Mhm.
Now, one of the things that is really interesting to talk about in this regard is when we're talking about the Dhamma,
Mhm.
we're talking about wholesome things.
Right.
We're, we're talking about something that's really good. So, if a student is sitting in his meditation and contemplating and thinking of the Dhamma, in that moment, he's not in hindrances.
I see. Mhm.
And so, having thoughts of the Dhamma is better than having thoughts about, oh, I've got to write that email. Boy, I'm going to let him have it. He was really nasty to me on Reddit, and I've got to come a really good zinger comeback. Okay, these kinds of thoughts that we have
Uh-huh.
are not wholesome
Right.
thoughts.
Right. Right.
And if we are in the habit of having those unwholesome thoughts, but not in the habit of expressing those unwholesome thoughts, then
Mhm.
we're just left with it.
Right.
And it's left with it as a habit, so that um, actually, you probably heard the name of Henry David Thoreau, first got
Yes.
into Buddhism back in the 1820s and 30s and whatnot, had
Oh wow.
Louisa May Alcott and Emerson as a friend.
Waldo
Okay,
Emerson.
okay, all right. What Thoreau came up with is that men lead lives of quiet desperation.
Oh, I
All
see.
right, what does that mean? That means that we're all desperate, but we keep it quiet and we just let that desperation go on the inside while we're putting a smiley face as best we can on the outside,
Mhm.
not being very good at it.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so, what Anapanasati really is cleaning out every little desperate thought that comes by.
Mhm. Right. Right.
And slowly, as we begin to change and have wholesome thoughts,
Mhm.
thoughts of the Dhamma, thoughts about right here, right now, thoughts about everything is okay, it's going to all work out, no problems, no worries, those kind of thoughts then become a little bit more dominant than they used to be, because you're used to be all of our thoughts are, oh, I've got this work to do, and oh, that student is not a good student, and gosh, I'm responsible for what she's doing, and all of this kind of extra thinking that we do,
Mhm.
rather than, hey, I really enjoy this.
Right. Right.
So we need, in fact, have a whole lot more mind moments of enjoyment and fewer of mind moments of unhappiness,
Right.
so
Right.
that we are, in fact, not bringing up unwholesome feelings that then we suppress in the
Right.
sense of not expressing. So the suppression is simply the non-expression
Mhm.
rather than the actual suppression of the feelings. Because, in fact, Anapanasati is not suppressing the feelings.
Right.
Let me give you this example. Let
Mhm.
us say that you were standing on the road
Mhm.
and you're not paying much attention and you get hit by a truck.
Okay.
All right. Now let's say that you're standing in the road and you're paying attention and you're watching this big truck bear right down on you.
Mhm.
What are you going to do? You've got three choices. You're going to try to stop that truck. That's what we're talking about, suppression. That's Popeye.
Mhm. Mhm.
Or we're going to let it run over us, which is what most people do.
Or just.
Or
Mhm.
we're going to step out of the
Yeah.
way, going to stand out of the road. Let that, note that hindrance well and let it pass.
Right.
And say, oh, I don't have to feel that way. I can feel good instead. My choice.
Exactly. Just like smile at it, right?
Yeah.
I see.
Wave goodbye to that truck that didn't run into you.
Yeah, it's interesting because yeah, the reason why I ask is because I think like a week and a half ago, yeah, the Zen master, obviously, got mad over something. I think we ordered pizza and then he thought it was expensive, and so he got mad and he just basically stonewalled all of us for like 4 or 5 days and just didn't speak and he was just mad.
He
And
was
I
mad before you bought the pizza or after you bought the
after
pizza?
after he bought the pizza, and he basically stonewalled everybody for like 4 or 5 days, and that's why I was very amazed at how long like the thing could keep going in his mind. Because I was like, the pizza's long gone, like and I told him, the pizza's here, you might as well enjoy it, right? Like, he's like, if you feel bad while eating the pizza, then you feel bad like twice because you feel bad for overpaying, and now you feel bad for
and
eating pizza.
and
So
then he feels bad later.
yeah,
He won't stop. He keeps feeling bad. Okay. And you're absolutely right. Once the pizza is bought, you
yeah,
might as well enjoy it because it's already bought and paid for.
yeah,
Why feel bad because it was too expensive when you've already bought it?
right. And then at first I felt like he's probably expecting an apology, and I thought I'm not gonna apologize because I didn't do anything wrong. But then I realized maybe like 4 or 5 days later probably it was my own pride speaking. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, if there was nothing fine with if I was completely fine, then yeah, saying sorry or whatever is completely fine. So after 4 or 5 days, and I realized, yeah, probably I have some pride in there too, and I reminded myself that like, what's the worst that can happen if you admitted that you were wrong to your own father, right? Like what's gonna
Mhm.
happen? What's so bad about that? And then I realized that um, yeah, I mean, if I give up my pride, then the stalemate, I guess the deadlock goes away, and that fixed itself after I got over that. So. And so that was interesting as well, because I wasn't that aware of the pride first, and then after a couple days, I started noticing, okay, so what's actually the thing here, right? What's making it so hard for me to say a couple words to him? And then I realized that at the end there was some aversion, and then I asked myself, okay, why is there aversion? And then that whole got to the point, well, nobody wants to feel bad because you're wrong, right? If you say sorry, you're wrong because that's what we're led to believe. Like, that's how like our habits are, right? Like, all through childhood, you do something wrong, so you say sorry. So you think, you feel bad for saying.
Isn't it funny that people will limp around on a foot that's got a splinter in it because they will not admit that
Yes,
they stepped on something they shouldn't have stepped on?
exactly. And then I realized that, like, over that past like 4 or 5 days, like, pride can be pretty insidious. And ever since I looked at it more closely, I can sometimes see, like, casual conversations, and somebody says, "No, that's not true," and then there's always, at least for me, some instinctive part, some thought that will try to jump out and say, "Well, no, because this," because you want to justify, that you're right, or even if you're wrong, you want to justify it so that it doesn't seem like you were completely wrong, and then that whole goes into the whole. It's a slippery slope from there because you want to save face and all that stuff, and that was definitely an eye-opening experience for the
Okay.
past 4 or 5 days.
Well, we can in fact go a little deeper in
Mm-hmm.
that, really, and
Mm-hmm.
that is that first off, let's look at the issue of sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The word sorry is often used when we have an apology,
Mm-hmm.
but in fact, you never were sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But we can find ways to apologize without expressing sorrow.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, and one of would be say that I apologize, or in this case with the Zen master, you could go so far as to say, you were right.
Mm-hmm.
That pizza was downright expensive. You
Mm-hmm.
want another one?
Okay, I didn't think about that. Okay, right, right. I see. Yeah, because I began to understand that, yeah, it's not so much about like the actual, like, right or wrong or whatever, right? the sorry is just how should I put this? It's like a tool to get at the underlying feeling, right? It's not so much like, oh, you say it, so you gotta be wrong, and now look, right? Like everything you ever said wrong, and you should feel bad. But it was more like just a tool to get to. I mean, this sounds kind of what's the word? Emotionally manipulative, but that's not like the point, because I don't want to be. I don't want to sound like malicious with it, but like given the situation,
Let's
it was.
do that. Okay, let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay for
Mm-hmm.
you to manipulate your emotions, and it's okay with wisdom to manipulate his emotions.
Right. Okay, I see.
Because that whole idea of manipulation of emotions is what we call or refer to in Nepali as mudita,
I see.
sympathetic joy. It's actually instinctual. It comes out of the herding instinct.
I see. I
And
see.
so if he's angry
Mm-hmm.
and is yak, yak, yak with his anger, that anger will, sympathetically vibrate down the way, and people will pick up on it ignorantly.
Right. Yes, it will
So
spread.
who's basically the question now is who can play the loudest, longest, happiest note?
I see. Right.
All right, this is what mudita really is all about, and we can think of it from this perspective.
Mm-hmm.
That the original part of the meditation is to get our own mind happy.
Mm-hmm.
Happy enough to deal with ourselves means now we're happy enough to deal with the world.
I
In the
see.
beginning, we're secluded. Then
Mm-hmm.
we come back into the world. The Zen master is part of your world,
Mm-hmm.
okay?
Yes.
Part of the
Yeah.
grumpy part of the world. And his grumpiness is powerful.
Yes, very. Yeah.
His grumpy is so powerful, in fact, that it overpowers the whole family.
Yeah.
Okay, which means that you
Mm-hmm.
can now, through your own, let us say, development of the skill,
Mm-hmm.
when is it that you lose your joy?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Can
Like,
you? How long can you keep your joy?
it's a game. Yes, exactly. Yes.
It really is, and it has to do with who has the most power here, the
Mm-hmm.
power of anger or the power of joy.
I see.
And
It's.
it's really interesting in the sense that it's very much like in music.
Mm-hmm.
One of the demonstrations that I remember, but I've seen this demonstration over and over and over again. You have a finely tuned, correctly tuned violin just sitting in the room open. The
Mm-hmm.
guy with the trumpet comes in and plays the note A.
Mm-hmm.
Ah! Guess what? He stops playing, he walks out, and everybody in the room can still hear that violin playing that note A.
Oh. It sticks. I see.
The vibrations
Mm-hmm.
stick, or let us say the vibrations move,
Mm-hmm.
and things that can vibrate at that frequency will vibrate at that frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that works with emotions with humans because of um, the societal instinct that we have. The
Mm-hmm.
basic instinct is the herding instinct. In other words, we get together
Mm-hmm.
in a herd for protection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if one person in the house is angry, everybody's got to come be angry together to join as a unity in protection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But
see.
that's not the only way to join in unity, that you can also join together in sadness or in grief. That happens at a funeral.
Right, 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 right. I see. Yeah, it's interesting because this most recent week, he's had like a reversal again. Reversal not in the bad, like not a relapse, but like a reversal of his behavior. Like one, I think like two days ago, yeah, he just up and starts talking. It's like, oh, I've been aware of some of my thoughts, and yeah, like I like see like there's like a lot of like some of that anger, it's really unneeded, and I'm like, wow, like that's good stuff. I mean, now that, I mean, it's like what we've been working, with him, like at least he can recognize it. Step one, and then the step two is to remember to recognize it when the anger actually comes. Because I was telling him that it's great. Dhammarato would be really happy to hear that when you're calm, you understand, you recognize the anger, and I guess I told him that now the game is to catch it when you actually start to get angry.
Uh-huh. Well, you can help him with that, not just by explaining it to him, but put it into action.
Right, yes.
Okay? So you can, from this moment on, be determined that whenever he gets grumpy, you're going to have enough joy to manage it. Okay? The example would be that you can't approach him with a spoonful of joy or a spoonful of sugar when he has a whole yard of his mind full of crap.
Oh yeah, that's gonna
be. You can't have a teaspoonful of sugar. It's not going to be enough. No, you need a backhoe.
I see.
Okay, a backhoe of joy. Or in the way that the suit puts it, is unremitting joy. Unremitting pity. In other words, he is not going to let you get you down. There's a Latin phrase. It's illegitima cooperandum, I think, is something like that. And what the illegitimate is, it translates into bastards. Don't let the bastards grind you down is the famous way that it's translated. But look at the point about it's illegitimate. That his anger is not legitimate. So don't let his illegitimate anger grind you down. You've got enough joy to manage his grinding.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. And so in that regard, it's going to be grumpy, and you're going to be happy, and he's going to be more grumpy, and you're going to be happy, and he's going to be more grumpy, and then you sleep away, all this is too much work. Because you don't have enough. But there's also the possibility is he gets grumpy, you get joyful, he gets grumpy, you start being happy, he gets more grumpy, you start teasing him about being grumpy, you start saying, oh, you don't have to be grumpy, I bet you could smile if you wanted to. And then you can say, oh, I see you smiling, I can see that. In fact, when I do that with Kitty, when she's grumpy, and I do that with Kitty, she actually tries to hide her face physically. She does not want me to see that she is actually smiling because she still wants to be grumpy.
That's really sweet. Wow. Yeah. Definitely. And I feel like the sitting practice goes a long way to maintaining the quiet joy that there is. Because the informal practice by itself is not enough. Definitely, the sitting practice is needed to calm the mind, because it's because if you just don't, it just backslides. So that's what I see. At least,
one of the ways that you can handle that. Let's go back to the expensive pizza part. Okay, he's grumpy, and so you can say, "Wow, you're right, Dad. That was an expensive pizza,
but it
boy, did it taste good."
Yeah,
that was such a good pizza. It was just way too expensive. You're completely right. Wow, it was expensive. I tell you what, I'll buy you another one. And you start teasing him with it. You can help him to recognize that he doesn't have to be grumpy just because the pizza was expensive.
Right.
You see, that's something that comes from his old culture.
Yeah.
He was raised that way. That, in fact, my dad raised me that way. That when you have to pay too much, you can't have it, or if you do have it, you can't enjoy it because it was too expensive.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah. So this, I mean, definitely he's leveled out a lot more now since 2 weeks ago, which is great because it shows that it's I mean, I guess this is expected, right? Everybody has these moments where, they'll be noble at times, and then they just completely forget. And I think this is just, I guess, him going through one of these normal things, except for him, the cycle is a little longer. Instead of moments, what's more apparent is maybe days.
Bhikkhu Bodhidasa was really, really clear upon that when he talks about void mind. Because a lot of Westerners, when they hear the idea of void mind, they think the void is void of everything. But he's making the point that no, what we mean is that it's void of hindrances, it's void of dukkha.
I see.
And that we all have times, and you're even talking about it. Sometimes he's good, sometimes and sometimes he's not.
Yeah.
The question is, do we have the skill to change the ratio from 80% of the time being unhappy and 20% being happy? Can we change that around to 80% happy and 20% unhappy?
Right. Gotcha.
And then we can change it from 80% happy to 95% happy and only 5% unhappy. All right, so this is the way we go. We begin to slide the scale, and when do we slide it? Whenever we remember. Whenever we can wake up. So part of your waking up is to help your dad wake up, as well as you can use him as an anchor for you to wake up.
Yeah, I mean,
especially when he is grumpy. When he's grumpy, you use that as a very strong anchor. Okay, where's my joy? Where's my joy? I got to get it up.
That's really the tough part, because for me, when I'm alone, everything is perfectly fine. I take showers, I enjoy them to the fullest. I take sippy sips of cold water, fantastic. I sit on my bed. My mom calls me lazy, and I say, yep, lazy's good. And the real test, I think, like you say it is, it's like when he gets like a grumpy from like 1 to 100. I think that's like the realest test of how strong my own joy is, because most of the time, if I'm being honest, the joy cannot stand his level of grumpiness. It's like extremely strong. And so, I guess you're right. Like, I guess this is the next game to play. Like, can I get the joy even stronger?
Strong, so it's unremitting. It'll keep coming back. He'll be grumpy, and here comes your joy. He'll be grumpy, here comes your joy.
Yeah, it's definitely like on a whole nother level. Like, I can definitely like sit into washing dishes. Sure, washing dishes slowly, enjoying the hot water and like the squeaky sound on the dishes. Easy stuff, man. But like dealing with him is at his worst. Yeah, I guess like I think that's a really good point. Like that's probably like another game to play.
Well, this is mudita in action.
I see.
Mudita in action, in the sense of, can you be joyful even in the face of people being not joyful?
I see.
When they're grumpy, you can be joyful even though they're grumpy. You can be joyful. And you can overpower their grumpy with your joy.
I see.
Because nobody really wants to be grumpy.
Yeah.
And so you can invite them out of it.
Yeah, because what I've also noticed, is, for example, when we're eating and he gets grumpy, the hard part is sometimes my mom and my brother, pick up, like get lit by the anger first, and then of course they will say things like, "Why are you so angry?" or like telling, just directly tell them like, "Don't be angry." But if you tell somebody that, don't be angry,
that'll just get them more so. No.
And so now instead of one burning match, you have 3 burning matches. So it's just like, come on. I'm not saying I'm perfect, because obviously, eventually I will get burned if I'm not careful. And then we end up in like these kinds of things, like these kind of situations where the thing just like lights up. But that is a really good point. I mean, this just shows that some of the joy is not strong enough, because when he gets grumpy, it spreads. Yeah, but he's a lot better now, so I'm not complaining. It's pretty good. So
Well, I got to tell you, in a kind of a small way, that happened right here at the house today, this morning.
mm-hmm.
You probably heard in the background the motors running.
Yeah.
Well, earlier this morning,
Mm-hmm.
the truck wouldn't start.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that it didn't start yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
but because it's diesel, I know that the diesel fuel
Mm-hmm.
will sink back down in the fuel line
Mm-hmm.
because it's just got some natural leaks. And
I
the
see.
air will seep back into it over a period of time. If you use
Mm-hmm.
a truck every day, it'll start right up every day.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go for 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
then it'll be hard to start only because the diesel fuel is not all the way up to the carburetor.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just turn it and try to start it, the battery will run down before the pump will pump it all the way up.
Mm-hmm.
And so the way to do that is by pumping the throttle with your foot to pump and pump
Mm-hmm.
and
And
pump
you
and
will
pump and
be
pump.
fighting
We
the.
we did that yesterday, and
Mm-hmm.
I got the truck started, but
Mm-hmm.
we didn't leave it started long enough. So today we go out, and now the battery is not all the way up. And so now, just as I'm about to get it to where it's got gas going, so you can hear it just about starting, like like that,
Uh-huh.
and that's when the battery ran down, so that it
Uh-huh.
wouldn't do it anymore.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So Tam feels bad. She
Uh-huh.
gets grumpy because the truck won't start.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Uh-huh.
So now I've got a new job on my hand, and that is to get her to cheer back up. Well, I'm pretty good at that, and she's pretty
Uh-huh.
good at cheering back up. And so it took me about 20 seconds to get her out of her grump,
Uh-huh.
by basically asking her questions like, well, why are you grumpy? Well, the truck won't start. And I says, yeah, but you can go ride where you want to on the motorbike. You don't need the truck. And then
Mm-hmm.
she says, well, I want to get it started. I got to go call the guy over there, and I don't want to pay for it. I say, okay, well, I'll pay for it. Now you got no reason to be grumpy.
Oh, and then she like lightened up. Yeah, like she.
Right. You can lighten people right up. All you have to do is take their reason for being grumpy away from them. You can talk them out of it, literally.
Oh wow. Yeah, this is something to think about. Actually, to actually try. Actually, not even think about, but just something to try. Just to take away people's reasons to be grumpy. Oh wow. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I gotta give that a
And to
try then.
cheer them up, do it with a happy. You can't be grumpy and talk them out of being grumpy. You got to be really light.
Got it. Got it. I see. I see.
No
Wow.
reason to be grumpy at all,
Gotcha. Oh yes, for sure. Right? Like oh,
because people would rather, in general, be happy than grumpy. We're
if they
just in the
choose.
habit of finding something to get grumpy about.
Gotcha. Gotcha. I see. I see. Yeah, yeah. This is something that yeah, I need to remember to to try and play around with. Yeah, that sounds like some fun stuff.
Well,
Um,
you can do that at work too with this girl that
yes,
you're trying to
yes,
train.
right. Exactly, exactly. Yeah. Got it. Got it. Got it.
You got to
Makes sense.
you can be happy if you can remember to be happy, even in the face of when other people are screwing up,
Yes.
failing, being
Yeah.
unhappy, whatever.
Yeah, that's the definitely thing. Like I think I remember chatting briefly last time, which is sometimes you become so focused on the code that you kind of forget to be mindful, right? Because it saps like attention, it saps like your concentration for mindfulness because you're trying to
Hmm.
figure out how this thing works and you're trying to do these things. But that really is another place to really I guess like practice, especially since now so many hours are spent in front of like logged in front of the computer. Yeah, that's a really good point,
Hmm.
actually. Uh,
Yes, taking a moment back. Now, one of the things that I will say, and that is that the skill
mm-hmm,
of learning code,
mm-hmm,
which also could be the skill of stop looking at the algorithm the way you want to wake it, and
mm-hmm,
start looking at the algorithm the way the computer does it,
mm-hmm,
so that you can go through the step-by-step sequence of events of the algorithm to check it to see if it conforms to what I want or not,
Mhm.
as opposed to I just want it to do this and I'm trying anything to get it to do that. No, we really have to understand the code. This is what decoding is all about. Now, if you can do that with code on a computer where you have a really strong guarantee because the computer is either broken or it's working.
Mhm.
Okay, if in fact if you've got a computer that's got memory faults, that computer is not going to process.
Mhm.
Okay, because they've got mechanisms in there. So if the computer will be our baseline for that code.
Mhm.
Okay, we
Mhm.
also now understand that we can use that same kind of baseline with the Dhamma,
Mhm.
so that we can figure out how to get the code in our own minds to conform to the baseline, which is the instruction set of the Dhamma.
Mhm. Mhm. Right. Right.
All right. And it's the same skill. In other
Mhm.
words, if you can learn to code, you can learn how to straighten out your own mind.
Right. Exactly.
And
Yes.
a lot of people don't know how to code.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's also like I'm also understanding, why the Buddhists had, like, like high states of, like that whole thing we keep saying about, people confusing going deep with, actually, freeing themselves, because at least from what I've learned from all of this is, yeah, you can be intensely concentrated in the code, but you forget, you're leaving the door wide open, for your feelings to come in and just, like, trash the place, because when you're so
Hmm.
focused on, trying to,
Exactly so.
right, like to fix or to do this thing, you don't notice what's going on or what you're really thinking, because all you care about is, okay, how do I get rid of this thing, and you don't pay attention to what's going on. So at least that's what I've been seeing, which is and so yeah, you're definitely right. Going people confusing going deep with, actually, waking up. And they're actually two separate things, and so that's actually been very clear to me now, for like the past like 1 or 2 weeks.
Great. Great. Yes, that's a subtle point.
Mhm.
You're right. That's the
Mhm.
subtleness is there in the sense that
Mhm.
people, in fact, can have bug in code,
Mhm.
and they spend a lot of time feeling bad about that bug, and they try this, that, and the other thing, and the bug doesn't go away.
Mhm.
As opposed to actually going down through
Through
one
one
step at a
step.
time to see exactly what's going on, and then they'll know how to fix it. That's the debugging technique. How we learn to debug code is exactly the same trick of learning how to debug the mind.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. I think I'll probably gonna, yeah, like, practice, two things, I guess, for next week, which is, can we, like, be more joyful, stronger in the presence of the Zen master, and the other part is, when coding, maybe don't concentrate so hard on the code. That's what I need to do.
Right.
I need to pull back. um, yeah,
Be
I think,
aware that there you are at the desk. Draw
yeah,
back a bit, and yeah, look how you feel.
exactly. So yeah, yeah. So anyway, I hope to, like, call on, like, this weekend again, because yeah, like, these long gaps is really not so good. I feel like, because it's like basically missing out on a lot of opportunities to discuss more Dhamma, and then, like, when the next time I call, like, everything is,
You,
like,
I
forgotten.
Well, you've got a really nice, cheery smile on your face, so I know that you haven't forgotten all your Dhamma.
Oh yes, yes. Yeah.
But I do invite you to call more often, Willie.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, definitely. So yeah, thanks, Dhammarato. Yes, thank you. I'll probably see you soon in like 5 days.
Okay, we'll see you soon, Willie.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. Bye bye.
bye.